The running gag is that I tank every single one of the episodes I'm on.
True.
Rough.
Damn.
Proximity alert. Vessel approaching. The vessel is hailing.
Space.
Warning. Warp core collapse in 10 seconds.
Welcome to Left Trek, your leftist Star Trek podcast. I'm Eric. We are joined by a panel here where we're going to determine if I am a sentient being and able to refuse a procedure where nicotine is going to take my brain out of my head, put it on a coffee table, and then just try to put it back. Just kind of throw it back in there, see what happens. I am, of course, joined by Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian Trash. I'm running JAG in this sector.
Zot.
Hi, I'm Zots. I got no joke.
Wah, wah.
How typical. And featuring special guests, plural.
Multiple?
Nicotine.
Hi, I'm Nicotine. I'm Kira's biggest fan.
And the one and only Kirachats.
Hi, I'm Kira, and I was gonna say I'm Nicotine's biggest fan.
Oh
my God.
my God.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
It turns out this was not a case of a parasocial relationship coming to be. This is just two professionals who admire each other. We love to see it here on
From
Twitch.com,
afar.
folks.
Yeah.
Solidarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a parasocial relationship meets a parasocial relationship. This is a social relationship. Oh my God.
It's two parasocial relationships from people that regularly experience being parasocial relationshiped.
Yeah.
So, like, we're just very palpably aware of it, and we're doing it to each other. And so
Right.
it all kind of cancels out to, like, a normal friendship.
Because we act out the way that we've been treated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh no. You need a counselor?
I'm sorry.
This is a level of codependency from what we expect and demand on Left Track.
But the thing is, we're aware of it, so it's healthy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Ever
Ever
be
since
healthier.
really
every single
couldn't.
person that watched that Shannon Strucci video from like 3 years ago now has a perfectly healthy relationship with all of the content they consume. And that is especially the case for you lovely Left Trek fans out there. Did you know that liking and commenting on our Left Trek episode is essentially the kin as being friends with all of us and every single person that's ever guested on Left Trek?
Yeah.
You want to be our
True.
best friends? Go ahead and subscribe to the Patreon. It's only $3. Hey.
These are all facts.
These are all
All-
facts. It's like kissing us on the lips. I'm just kidding. Please don't actually think that.
Listen, if
Don't
I'll
stop
allow
giving
it.
exactly.
I'll allow it. You can.
I can't believe Brian would second guess the left Trek way here, just like live automatically. No, you can kiss us on the lips. That's okay. Me,
yeah.
Zots, and Brian at the very least for subscribing to the Patreon. We'll
You get one.
You can be all of our friends, but you can only kiss us, the Left Trek hosts. But
I'll tase you. I'll tase you, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. It's fair.
One of us will tase you. One of us will shoot you. Which one's which? Answer
It's
our
a gamble.
question. So the reason we have two guests here on this episode of Left Trek is because this is a special one. This is when Trek got good, ignoring maybe a couple episodes that come after this. But this is when Trek got good. I wasn't alive back then, but I imagine everyone just like us was sitting along watching Star Trek, and then they were like, "Oh my God, this is terrible. I'm gonna go ahead and give this my typical because it's the 1980s. I'm gonna give this my typical 1.5 season watch through, and then if it doesn't pick up by then, it's over. And look at that measure of a man. It saved Star Trek Forever by just being so goddamn good. So let me ask before we get into this. I guess we'll just remind everyone that every single person here is a Trek expert. We've all seen a lot of Star Trek, exactly. Besides
not
Zots.
Me. Yeah, I was gonna say, not me.
We have the one person here who we're going to be going to get some opinions, like a friend who's showing you a video and they keep looking over at you to see if you're actually watching it. We're gonna be doing that to Zots. Zots, hey, don't you like this? This is the good one. Hey, Zots, what do you think about this one?
I'm almost done with this TikTok. Hold on, I'll let you know in a second.
Okay, all right. Well, it's in your writer. I get to tase you.
This is actually this is us metaphorically beating Zots into Star Trek. You know, it's like welcome
episode.
Welcome to the
violent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, welcome to the club. You have to watch the first season of Star Trek, and that's painful, you know. So and we've made it past that. We're getting there. We're getting somewhere, and you're becoming a Trekkie.
Well,
I guess. Yeah. Do I just become? Does it just happen like after you get to like let's say is there like an episode count and then you're just officially a Trekkie?
Well,
or is this something
it already happened because I if I recall correctly, you sent Brian at some point like a meme that you saw, and that's it. That's the qualification. It's over for you.
Oh, fucking hell!
You're now a Trekkie, and you've never even seen a good episode of Star Trek besides the select few from season 1 thus far. But Zots, well, actually, no. Opening this up to everyone else, how much did everyone remember of this episode? How often do your rewatches go to this episode? If you ever watch season 2 back, at all?
I have some thoughts, actually.
Please.
I remembered a lot more about this episode as I was watching it, because I remembered this episode being good.
But you haven't seen it. But you haven't seen it recently.
Really good. And then since then, stuff like ChatGPT and DALL-E and stuff has happened, and I have a very different opinion on how all this should go down. So
isn't that a very interesting
the episode where Picard tries to defend his ChatGPT enabled Roomba.
We're gonna have a whole fucking AI talk about this. That's fascinating.
Really.
But don't worry. We're not going to talk about it. But doesn't it just lend some interesting context to rewatching this episode? Not really though, because we don't actually have artificial intelligence. We just have language prediction models that people apply personalities to where none exists. But Nicotine, yeah. So you haven't rewatched this episode recently? You just remember
it's been
it
a
being
while.
good?
I remember it being good. Also, I remember the court scenes being better. I have a lot of thoughts on the court scenes. I'll talk about them later. But I remember the court scenes being way better.
I have opinions on the court scenes too.
Absolutely. I know Zots' opinions on the court scenes. Zots, I'm going to request that you keep those kind of opinions on the court scenes short, so we don't end up going like half an hour longer than I wanted to. We almost got it with under an hour last time, and then you just had to go off on defending the Klingons. Just shake my head. I'm just kidding. I love you, Zots. Kira. Kira, what's your? How much do you remember this episode going into it? I know. Even if we all haven't seen it, there's been a lot of like think pieces and like video essays and stuff that we may or may not have seen. But what was your familiarity going into rewatching this?
Well, my memory. So.
Okay. All right. Cutting that out.
The reason being is that I've seen this episode so many times, and like I've referenced it so much on my stream, like specific parts, that I figure,
Sure.
I'm fairly up to speed on it. Am I missing something right now?
No, I'm sure
Has
it'll be
something changed
perfectly.
since I last watched it? I don't know.
Well,
It's
don't.
ChatGPT
Yeah.
and Dolly.
Oh my God.
They've been editing it in order to take the wokeness out of it as part of a because we watched it on Netflix. So yeah,
this is actually
Guinan as a character, as like a woke character, has been removed just entirely from the Netflix watch through of Star Trek: Next Generation. It's a different experience, especially when they start including clips of some not so favorable comedians. But I mean, hey, they got to make a buck somehow, right?
I know you're joking, but there actually is like a different cut of this same episode that's 11 minutes longer.
What?
There actually is.
Is this true?
This is true. There's an 11-minute longer cut of this episode that didn't make it. That only I think the writer Snodgrass has, and she got it on like a VHS. And they used her VHS for the Blu-ray restoration. That's the only reason I know it, is because they used that VHS, and it's 11 minutes longer. Yeah.
That's wild.
Oh my God. We don't, and anyone who's not as familiar with the episode, like you, the audience, I just want to say, I'm going to say this a few times throughout it. If you're one of those few people that are watching through Left Trek without actually having seen the Next Generation, I know there's a couple of you out there. I've spoken to a couple of you. Go watch this one. Go watch this one. Some people even recommend that like this is the one you should start out on. And I think you probably have enough like cultural osmosis, especially through watching this episode, on like what the characters are, like what their relationships are. But you don't really need that going into this episode. It's
pretty standalone. It's fairly standalone.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Maybe a little like review, maybe a little background, but yeah, I think you can probably go into it fairly oblivious to like a lot of like the plot to Star Trek.
Yeah.
I would like to propose a counterpoint to this. Actually, there are only 2 courtroom episodes that I can think of off the top of my head, and the other one is Drumhead. It's this one and Drumhead. So if you're looking for an example of like TNG Star Trek, I don't know that this is like the best example, unless the only other episode you're gonna watch is Drumhead.
Well, this is if you wanted to start on like the first like good episode of
the philosophy
of Star Trek.
of TNG, sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I think,
like for average like episode quality and content, probably not.
Well, we've recommended in the past, like, anyone who wants to get into Star Trek, like, go and, like, look up a top 10 list of episodes and probably just watch through those first.
Yeah.
And you'll have a much better experience than starting TNG from season 1 as this is the premise of this show.
This episode does usually make those top 10 lists.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is the first. I mean, we've enjoyed some episodes in the past, especially Conspiracy. Nicotine, being Nicotine, of course, loves the Arsenal of Freedom.
I love Arsenal of Freedom, dude.
She loves the Arsenal of Freedom so
Vincent Schiavelli
much.
for the win, man.
She loves that Schiavelli. Yeah, but this is like the first, good one. Your Darmox, your whatever the other ones are. your
I run a Star Trek podcast.
Your inner light.
I'm something of an expert.
Wait, hold on. Retake. Your Darmox, your inner lights, your Gambits, part 1 and part 2. I love Gambit. I know people don't like Gambit. I love Gambit. I think it's cheesy and I love it. We start off here. They're delivering some kind of science experiments to some starbase or something, but the important thing comes immediately. This is also, I believe, actually, maybe I'm wrong about this, but this is the first time we've seen them play poker, isn't it?
It is.
It is.
Yeah. First appearance of poker, a long-running bit in TNG, and probably one of like the best uses of it as well, because it actually plays back into the episode. I complain about it, and then I like go back and erase my complaint. So because this is the first part of a trend that describes Data not being that good at poker because he's a machine and he doesn't understand bluffing and the reality of playing poker. But in reality, machines like perfect card counters are actually very good at playing poker. It turns out, but
foreshadowing too. The foreshadowing because he calls Riker on his bluff, and Riker spends the rest of the episode bluffing.
Well, exactly. So the game, as the game starts, we've got Pulaski, Geordi, Data, and O'Brien here at the table. The big five, as Trek fans typically call this particular group. And everyone bows out pretty quick going into the fan, going into the actual hand. Riker goes up against Data, and I think Data has like a full house or something, but Riker, he's threatening the flush. Data has absolutely no concept of bluffing, and Riker bets him up with his poker face, a concept that Data understands, by the way, so he should have some understanding of bluffing here, and he should know the odds that Riker has like an actual 5 suited here. But whatever. I guess this is fucking amateur hour here. The real loser of this poker game, though, not a lot of people talk about this, but it's O'Brien. Because if O'Brien had understood Data and understood Data's lack of ability to bluff, he could have stayed in it as long as he could beat a queen high. He takes the pot of fake money. It could have been all his, but it's amateur hour, as we say.
When I was a kid, my mom had one of those like toilet video games, like the video games you play in the bathroom. And it was poker, and I just watching that scene, like I just remembered my mom's toilet video game was like better at poker than Data. The super advanced robot, the super advanced Roomba.
But at the very least, this is foreshadowing. Ooh, kind of. Well, not really foreshadowing. It's more of a callback. But regardless, Picard is flirting with the local JAG officer, as he does at every single starbase. And they have an exchange where apparently she was the prosecutor for that ship that Picard destroyed back when he murdered Beverly Crusher's husband and Wesley Crusher's father.
Stargazer, yeah.
Yeah, the admiral and some so now we see an admiral come on board, and he's paired with some nerdy science teacher, real like imagine Bill Nye but sinister. They come onto the bridge. They've got a brief introduction to the Enterprise. They talk a little bit, and then the Admiral's like, "Oh yes, and the doctor here is going to work on your android. Please take care of it." Very funny line considering we know what's about to happen with this guy.
Just watching Commander Maddox, by the way, is the name of the science guy, and as he goes onto the bridge, his leering stare at Data the entire time is just like disgusting.
Very uncomfortable. There's a lot of like sinister music playing too.
Yeah.
He stares. He stares at Data like a Discord moderator. Like it's just very, very creepy. You can tell he's like ready to overstep some bounds. Like the second he comes on the fucking bridge, it fucking sucks.
Absolutely.
Reddit mod.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that that Maddox is the sole moderating member of the subreddit that was assembled in order to advocate for Data not joining Starfleet on the grounds that he's not sentient. And they say sentient like a million times in this episode, and that's a common one in Star Trek. But they mean sapiens. They mean sapiens. They're saying sentience, but they mean sapiens. Your fucking cat has sentience, but it doesn't have sapience. Okay, all right, hack science fiction writers, get the word right. They're having a conversation, and it's revealed that Maddox wants to try to recreate the positronic brain, and he keeps misgendering Data by calling him it instead of he, just like Pulaski does. Data is intrigued and willing to participate, but it turns out Maddox hasn't even solved the electron resistance filaments. Come on, that's fucking step one, Maddox. We all know this. Maddox has an order that Data be turned over to him to undergo the procedure, and oh shit, Data is definitely not willing to go. Picard actually tries to talk him into it in a kind of a one-on-one, saying that there'd be an immense benefit to Starfleet if Data could be replicated. And Data's like, oh yeah, well how about what if everyone replicated fucking Geordi's visor and replaced your eyes with it? You know, you want to be in pain all the time like Geordi is, that we frequently forget about. Geordi is constantly in pain from his visor. So you know, whatever. And then Picard is like, Data, you're dismissed. And little hero, like a little Avenger style, the Sting plays, and Picard asks the computer for all the relevant laws. But not watching with ads, we immediately comedy smash cut to Picard breaking into the Jag office. I don't understand any of this bullshit. I need some help. You love to see that the Federation still has very confusing legal codes, but hey, maybe that's understandable.
Something's never changed, you know.
Something's never changed. We are dealing with like a federation of thousands of species. I you know, the slightly defensible, confusing legal codes here, but
I think I would have liked this episode just like a little better if this would have been like some sort of like buddy cop thing when they introduced the Jagoff officer, or the like if it was just like, damn it, Picard, you keep breaking all these rules. I'm up to my neck in paperwork here, and you keep
instead Philippa
balls, Picard.
Yeah,
instead Philippa, the Jag officer, is just like incredibly horny for Picard, and that's
she's
like
so horny for Picard. Horny.
I love
for
it.
Picard.
Like when they're introduced, she calls him a pompous ass and then follows it up, but damn sexy. And it's like, oh my god,
literally, those are
literally,
words
that
that
what
were
she said
in a Star Trek episode.
Yep.
Very inappropriate. Yes. Now then, we don't see the follow up where she gets sued for sexual harassment. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Data represents Picard. Actually, it's a whole.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole thing. Riker
Her little
has to
Jag
come.
office on the space station is like decommissioned.
Yeah. Well, then Riker has to go against his principles and defend someone committing sexual harassment. It's a very controversial follow-up episode. We'll get to it in season 4. So Picard she's like, okay, Data can refuse the procedure, but the transfer can't be undone. And Picard very rightly believes that once Maddox has Data under his command, Data's fucked. Maddox is gonna figure out something. He's gonna do something, and then his actions are going to be retroactively justified. Very upsetting stuff. But so the only other option is that Data resign from Starfleet in order to avoid being transferred. And we cut to a very sad scene. Data's packing up all of his shit, but Maddox breaks into quarters, showing his lack of respect for Data's privacy and decency as a sapient being. We're also going to ignore the fact that they like refer to Data as like human, although his like humanness is not part of the equation here. It's his likeness to us. He's a person. You know, there's a lot of people in the Federation of like 1,000 fucking planets that aren't humans, but probably the vast majority of them. But okay, sure, whatever. All right, we're talking about Data's humanity, his soul. Maddox tries to talk him out of resigning from Starfleet with a Zot. What the fuck is going on?
What was that noise?
Is someone moving in the background?
Was there a dog coming
Or like
downstairs?
moving,
No.
like moving their house?
Hey, I have a 4-year-old upstairs. Ignore it.
Is your
Got it.
wife and kids packing up all their things because you won't stop podcasting about Star Trek?
Well, it's more likely than you think. Continue.
So
Tragic.
We get some more, almost as tragic. We get some more scenes of Maddox being, except it's finally appropriate this time, of Maddox being like, you don't really understand literature. Are these just words to you, or is this beautiful poetry like it is to me, Maddox, the Reddit mod? We get some technical specifications of why Data doesn't want to undergo the procedure, and it turns out that if the memories get transferred to a computer, computer, they'll lose all their soul. He uses for reference the experience of playing poker. Hey, look at that, it's a callback. He understood all the rules, but the realities of actually playing poker there with his friends, the big four, that really it's just not the same. But Maddox is like, okay, well, whatever. You can't quit Starfleet. I'm gonna fucking sue you. The commercial break scene. Picard is sitting. They're talking with Maddox. They're trying to find well, Maddox now is the one seeking a legal remedy, just like Picard. Maddox accuses Picard of assigning Data human characteristics, but Maddox is the one arguing that he's not a person. He's just a piece of engineering. He's sick and tired of hearing about people's rights. Doesn't he have a right not to have his life work ruined? I'm sick and tired of hearing about people's rights.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jesus
great line. We absolutely love that line.
Yeah,
he's like the
a little
shittiest.
on the nose, but yeah.
Maddox is also like the shittiest cyberneticist ever as well. Like, it becomes very apparent. But Maddox says to the judge, they're back at the JAG office. He says to the judge, "Would you allow the Enterprise computer to refuse a refit?" Which, like, okay, I think that's a shitty argument, but the JAG officer is immediately compelled. It's like, oh, that's interesting. I guess there's a lot of support for this. And I'm just like, what? There's case law about the Enterprise computer.
Can I talk about that just for a second? It's killing me.
Please.
That argument is absolutely killing me because, okay, here's the thing, right? When you say the ship's computer could just refuse to get a refit, you're operating under the assumption that the ship's computer is a piece of property that Starfleet owns and therefore it doesn't have any rights because it's a piece of property. But it also, like, it's installed in a server rack, right? and when Starfleet, like, accepted Data into Starfleet, it did so with, like, a tacit understanding that Data is a person because it afforded Data all the rights and responsibilities of a person in the military, right? It gave him a rank, it gave him some level of command, gave him quarters and a uniform and, like, all this stuff. So, like, there's no jury in the galaxy should think of that as, like, a valid comparison. That it irks me so hard.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too. I was like, didn't all of these legal questions get solved once he, became like a Federation citizen and then was admitted into Starfleet? But I guess that's just all out the fucking window here. Well, I suppose it's sort of, well, no, because the because the question is about his personhood. It's not just a question of, like, property and whether or not he can refuse a transfer. It's about, because this law is about whether or not Data can even resign from Starfleet because he's property of Starfleet. But yeah, it doesn't make any like, there's a lot about the actual legal proceedings that go on here, but
yeah, and another thing, a military tribunal is not the place for this. Data didn't do anything. He's not in trouble. He shouldn't have to go before a military tribunal, first of all. and second of all, this is not the right court for this. There's other courts in the Star Trek universe that aren't military courts to decide a person's, like, personhood.
Yeah, this is kind of an inappropriate setting ever. Yeah, this is like a question for the Federation Council. This is a question for, like, the high up.
It was convenient. It's just from my understanding of the show, or of how the Federation runs so far, is convenience. What random space dock is just, a quadrant over? Just handle your affairs there. Just go there.
I mean, don't they have Zoom? Can't they just do this over Zoom with a court on Earth? But whatever. It's a Starfleet matter because Data is now being seized by Starfleet. But okay, yeah, sure. So, but the JAG officer, she's like, all right, well, oh, and no, sorry, this comes later when she calls Data a slur, a Star Trek, Star Trek's own slur, that Zot's also invented. We'll get back to it. But there's a fun scene with Data's going away party. and that deals with the necessity of ripping up wrapping paper rather than just carefully unfolding. I forgot that scene was in this episode. It's cute. It's a fun little. It's a cute little
that
scene.
scene. It's adorable.
I love how like it was just like he's trying to explain to Wesley like, hey, no, like this the effort it took to wrap this paper around this gift is as important to me as the gift itself. And then Wesley's like, but you're missing the point. Like it's two autistic friends yelling at each other. That's what it is. It is. And then he just finally is just like fine, and he just like rips the paper in half.
After he's got it off too.
Yeah, after he's got it off too.
You know, I want to have an issue with that framing, but I think you're probably right. It's a cute scene.
It is a cute scene.
Jordy is very sad that Data is leaving, rightly so. They have a touching scene of best friends saying goodbye. No hug, unfortunately. Jordy wants to go for the hug, but he's uncomfortable because of Data's posture, and so he doesn't go for the hug. He just goes for the friendly shoulder grab. You know, between men. It's how men show affection for one another, especially back in the late 80s. So we cut back to Picard and Riker. They're in the JAG office, and she found that there is some kind of legal precedent for the Enterprise computer not refusing refit. They don't say what it is. I would be so curious to see what the previous decision regarding this is, but whatever. Picard challenges the ruling and the episode of the premise is set up. Picard will have to defend Data and Riker because, okay, this is another stupid thing. Riker, because he's the next highest officer, has to represent the prosecution. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's bullshit, actually. Riker definitely shouldn't be the one made to prosecute his friend for like a fucking million reasons, not to mention his own bias. But hey, I guess the Federation has eliminated bias, and Riker, he's a damn good prosecuting attorney in for the benefit of slavery. Riker is great at advocating for slavery.
We're going to talk about how good Riker is once we get to the court.
so he should not. So I guess this is just fucking kangaroo court is what we're dealing with here. But okay, sure, whatever. Picard informs Data of the ruling, and Data's like, well, shit, I sure hope Maddox isn't as much of a dumbass as he appears to be. From limitless options, I am reduced to none. Very, very sad line. Picard informs Data of the trial, and Data confides to him that he's very happy to be represented by Picard under these circumstances. And you know what? I agree. If I had to choose between any one on the Enterprise to represent me, represent my rights, I'd definitely choose Picard. Not like I don't know, Chief O'Brien. This would be a very different scene if you asked Chief O'Brien to represent. No Picard.
To see that, honestly.
Yeah. If Chief O'Brien were to be called as like a witness here, Chief O'Brien's specialty is what, everybody? It's transporters, right? Hey, real quick, how do transporters work? Just curious.
I don't know. I've seen so many episodes.
How the transporters are supposed to work is they break things down molecularly, right? And they track and map every single molecule that they're breaking down, right? At like a molecular level, they recreate everything and put it in the transporter buffer. They send the buffer down, and then the person comes out the other side. That's how the Star Trek universe defines like how they work, right? Sometimes.
It changes.
So my question is, why don't they just do that with Data? Why don't they just
relevant.
Map his molecules? Why would you even need to take them apart in this universe where we have technology to map molecules?
Yeah, and that's actually extra relevant because what literally just happened in the last episode, I'm pretty sure this was the last episode, was that Pulaski was succumbing to that aging virus, and their solution to it was to make her get in the transporter, and then they could just transport a version of her younger self via a fucking hair follicle that they had. So clearly you can just, and Picard, he gets scattered into molecules, but he turns back into energy and then reinserts himself into the computer. That's an episode in season 1. So clearly you could just create infinite copies of whatever the fuck you want with the transporter, but I don't know. There's some kind of thing for it. It doesn't make a lot of sense because like the transporter, the only way that it makes sense at all is that if it copies you, destroys you, and then recreates you using like a bunch of RAM. It has to use a bunch of RAM. That's why transporting is kind of like a scary process, because it's all stored in the random access memory. But clearly you could just fucking copy whatever you want, but they don't do that. I don't know why.
They could have
they have
like an
replicators.
external. They could have like beefed up their system for like this particular scenario. I'm sure they could call in some like external drive or something.
Yeah.
To like I don't know, whatever. Like it seems a little silly that they're like, whenever you run into those like limitations with like storage or something, it's always like an emergency situation. It's like, oh, we didn't think this would happen. Oh, it's 5 people that we need to store. Like, remember that episode? Oh God, I
Deep
forgot
Space Nine, where they have to store everyone, and then they're all become characters on the holodeck. The holodeck's the only one that can handle this kind of story. Now the way that I think about it is that you need a bunch of RAM in order to like transport someone, which makes sense because like that's not the same as memory. But I mean that's just my like little headcanon. None of this is textual, and the way that the transporter works is kind of like relegated to the realm of magic whatever shit. Which is also the same for the holodeck until like Voyager defines the absolute living fuck out of it and then makes that way more complicated, because right now we have an understanding of the holodeck as like, oh, it can recreate any matter, but that matter loses cohesion the moment it actually leaves the holodeck. So you're actually like when you're fucking on the holodeck, you're actually fucking on the holodeck. It's not just photons and force fields that they say 40 trillion times on Voyager. But I mean, yeah, a lot of that's one of the things with Star Trek is that like a lot of its science is actually like kind of like nice and well-founded. A lot of it's like very understandable. Like whatever science advisors they have for the TNG era stuff, actually not bad at all, but there's some implications for a lot of it that we have to like kind of headcanon away, and that's why memory beta is such a shit show. And if you're ever trying to find information, you should never don't go to memory fucking gamma or delta especially, but don't even go to memory beta. Memory alpha, and even that can be a little you know what I mean. But so back to the episode. We get a definition of what an android is from Webster's 24th Century. I think I skipped a couple of things here. We skipped the start of the trial. So there's a very cool scene where Riker is doing research and he pulls up the technical specifications of data, and then he smiles to himself. It's it's clear that he's got something here. But then he realizes, oh shit, and I have something here, and he gets really sad. The trial starts and they're listing off all of Data's commendations, all of his medals, and Riker's like, okay, sure, let's skip this bullshit. And Picard's like, no, I object. Let's hear this all out. And Data's got like 1 million medals. He's got the Medal of Honor. He's got the French Legion of Valor.
It's like, ooh, medals. This is clearly a human.
He's got all of his challenge coins.
How would these medals be achieved if not with consciousness?
Exactly.
Sections, et cetera, et
the
cetera.
medals are a very, very, very important aspect of establishing Data's personhood.
Even more important though is the next thing he pulls out, which is the little hologram of Tasha Yar, because at no point can Star Trek let you forget that Data boned Tasha Yar.
It's true.
Yeah.
I blew her back out, Captain.
Formed an emotional attachment.
Don't worry. We're gonna get to this aspect, but
does that mean if I bone someone, I don't keep a hologram of them, my humanity isn't actually intact?
Not really human. Not really human.
Yeah. So we're not gonna be able to recount like every aspect of all.
Wait. Unless you keep pictures of their genitals on your phone. Then I mean it's like the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's basically the same thing.
Am I e-girl? Am I Memorex?
So we're not going to be able to recount every aspect of all of the arguments that are made in this episode as much as we might want to. But once again, highly recommend actually going and watching this episode. Even if you've seen it before, rewatch this. It's great. It's actually really good. Like, this isn't just like an episode that's good on its merits of like what it's about, because like its plot is fantastic, but the actual honest to God dialogue writing, the script, the teleplay, it is immaculate. This is amazing television. I could not recommend it more, and I don't think you'll get an argument from basically any other Trek fan in existence. But we will go through like the highlights here. So first, we get a definition of what android is from Webster's 21st Century Dictionary, and then Riker has Data bend some kind of like super steel alloy, and Picard is like, there's a lot of species that have super strength. This is irrelevant, and the JAG officer, I'm pretty sure, just because she wants to see it, allows it to happen, and Data just
She wants to bone Data too.
He's extremely horny.
Just the most horny JAG officer.
How fully functional exactly are you, Data? Please state for the record.
Christ.
Now we see what Riker was smiling about as he requests to take off Data's hand, and then he prays it around the courtroom and walks behind Data before pressing his off button on his back, rendering him unconscious. Pinocchio's strings are cut. Accurately.
The second
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the second time that fucking so first Data's called a toaster, says I'll just fucking
skipped over the toaster. Her ruling like without the, once Riker finds out that he's going to to have to represent Data, and he's like, no, I won't do it. And she's like, all right, my ruling is that Data's a fucking toaster. Eat it.
And he has to go and he has to be refitted for bagel mode. That's
awful.
And then he switches him off and he's like, and now man has cut Pinocchio's strings, and it's just like, oh my god, shut the fuck up.
It is actually devastating. It's a devastatingly said argument. Riker doing an amazing job at advocating for slavery here. Then there's a recess because you know what could have happened there if Picard didn't call for a recess. He has to like get up and scramble to go turn like Data back on. Like that I think is that would be a little embarrassing for his argument. So they call a recess. It's good that they.
I just want to say really quickly that this Riker thing where he goes up and takes his hand off and stuff. All of the arguments, the legal arguments in this, are so unbelievably weak. They're so weak. Yep. They never cite any precedent. They never talk about exactly what they're trying to prove. They're all so emotional. They're overly emotional. Even Riker, when he like takes the hand off and he's like showing how strong he is. It means nothing. He's not making any point. All he's doing is saying that Data is strong and smart and damage. He can take damage, right? He's not saying anything of any importance, and he's not citing any precedent. There's no attempt in this scene to define property. They're just defining Data.
Yeah.
So there's no point to any of it.
Well, also, I think it is relevant in that like Riker is acting on parts of like the prosecuting, trying to convince this one person jury that they have here. But I get what you. But yeah, as from like a legal standpoint, this is so sloppy to the point that it's actually kind of gross. If you're one of those people that considers every single thing in Star Trek that like happens on the show as like actually canon for it, then this is the kind of shit that makes you lose your mind, because I can't believe trials are actually like this, because this
episode drove me to the brink of insanity.
It is a miscarriage of justice to say the least. But
I gotta say, also there was one thing that I really enjoyed about this scene, that I think really showed that everybody really thought that Data was like sapient, right? That everybody in the courtroom gasped when he got turned off, right?
True.
Like you get a shot of Philippa going And fucking Picard's obviously like devastated, and it's just like isn't it obvious that you just saw somebody like fucking abuse a sapient being right here?
Yeah, right.
Everybody
Meanwhile,
meanwhile, the fucking the scientist is like rubbing the front of his fucking unitard, just like, yeah, this is good shit.
Yeah, because he's a sicko. He's a sicko.
He's a sick freak. So Picard and Guinan, right after the recess happens, and Picard and Guinan are talking in 10-4. An amazing scene. Once again, reiterating, go watch this actual episode for a full account of like what Guinan says. Oh god, it's so great. Please go watch it. But they're hanging out in 10-4, and Guinan says that Starfleet is essentially seeking to create a slave race of datas. Picard realizes that this is not an issue of property. This is an issue about human rights. Goddamn, this is an issue about like this actual slavery that Starfleet is trying to introduce. And thankfully, that never happens in Starfleet ever going forward. Once again. Don't watch Star Trek Picard. don't. Womp. But they're back in the courtroom, and Picard accurately and interestingly states that Data is indeed a machine, but we are simply machines of a different construction. It is a little systematic discounting of all of Riker's previously arguments, but Picard calls Data to the stand, and Data's personal belongings, where he shows off his medals, a book that he got from Picard, and finally a holographic portrait of Tasha. And this is where we get more of an implied relationship. This is something that happens several times. We get a much stronger implied relationship between Data and Tasha than the one night stand that actually happened, which just seems...
It was a one night stand
that she regretted specifically.
Everyone was drunk.
Everyone was drunk, and she specifically says to him that this never happened to fucking
she
erase
clearly
your memory.
didn't like it.
Yeah, she was not happy afterwards. But this is not the first time we're gonna get a much greater implication of their relationship than is appropriate. We even get that we already got that actually in Tasha's death scene, but okay, whatever. Maybe we're meant to understand that they
what
also...
What do you mean in her death scene? Like, I don't remember her being like, by the way, if the toaster says I fucked it, it lied.
No. We get like a line from like Tasha's like eulogy about like showing some kind of like fawning for Data. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think we're meant to believe that they had a continuing relationship after the one episode where they have sex. But the only thing we actually see get established is the one episode where Tasha is on an incredible amount of ecstasy and then fucks Data and then says that it never happened. But okay, sure. Let's just say we're meant to believe that they had some kind of like a beneficial relationship with one another. Whatever. It's implied. It's then implied in the case that Maddox is less of a chump than I thought. He's an associate chair of the Daystrom Institute. He has papers and stuff, and Picard skips over them and is like, suffice it to say, he's an expert. Riker doesn't do like the petty lawyer thing where he then just goes, no, actually, I demand that all of Maddox's shit gets portrayed, and then we have to hear like the title of all of Maddox's Reddit posts. But that didn't happen, thank God.
Can we also say that Maddox is probably the most unqualified person to be in this courtroom at all, because he has such a personal investment in whether or not Data is considered property? Like, that's his whole personal goal. He has no business being in this courtroom.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's not even between Maddox and anyone else. It's between Data and Starfleet. So there's no reason Maddox should be there at all.
They said to be here.
You're supposed to understand, I guess, that Riker is representing Maddox here, but well, I guess Maddox is the one that is contesting Data leaving, because Maddox is at this point Data's commanding officer. I guess
But he
like,
has so much
kinda.
personal stake in making sure that the outcome of this case goes towards considering data property that he's
Yeah.
not. He shouldn't
Well-
be a witness at all.
Well,
he's
and even
so
worse-
biased. He's like the most biased person in the room.
Well, and even
Yep.
well, even worse, like
His personal
Riker,
career.
Riker has a bias about
Nicotine,
this.
I
He should
feel
not
like-
be prosecuting.
Nicotine, I feel like you're really appalled at what you're at like the judicial kind of like administrative side of Starfleet when I've like I completely expect this, so I don't really feel any anger. I'm just like, yeah, this is it always is garbage. It's always unfair. It's
I
never
am
like
upset.
it's always like hanging on by a thread and someone's dramatic speech decides to like sway it over. Like it's just
Yeah,
I've
that's
never,
because
I've
it's
never,
West
I don't
Wing in
feel any of what
space.
your feelings because like and I agree with what you're saying 100%. It's just never really occurred to me in any sort of like real tangible way because I'm just like I just expect this from like the upper echelons of Starfleet. It's just like it's just garbage.
You don't get to call the Federation a utopia when this is how their courts operate.
Yeah,
That's
I
why.
agree.
That's
I
why
agree with
this
you.
doesn't. That's why this in particular doesn't bother me. Because I see it more as like this isn't canon. I just see this as not canon. And maybe that's a flawed perspective of me. But I'm like, okay, if
Can you
Starfleet.
show me
This
when
is the
Starfleet
definition.
Yeah, show me when Starfleet is like consistently violates this.
No,
Like, it doesn't.
I definitely understand what you're saying. I just don't. This just doesn't match with what my picture of the Federation is. So, and it doesn't make like
doesn't
any.
mean it's not
Well,
canon. It
well,
just
I
means
think
The
that
definition of
No,
canon.
it doesn't. It doesn't. I said I consider it not canon. I'm not saying
Yeah,
it's not
nerds,
canon.
fight, nerds.
When
fight.
you like, it's like when we see like any other like dumb bullshit, like when they talk about like how the holodeck works, or when they talk about something else, like this isn't how
or the
this
Prime
would
Directive.
actually happen.
The Prime Directive is a really great example of like shitting all over like canon. Like
Well,
what is the Prime Directive?
Well, the Prime Directive. That's actually a bonus episode that I would love to do sometime. that's gonna be a fun
It's just
one.
gonna give me a headache. It's just
Yeah, I
it's just
know,
a
right?
nightmare.
Same.
But
I can't
this
even feel like I'm having fun with that topic. I just get like annoyed. I'm like, let's just talk about all the ways that they don't follow the Prime Directive.
exactly,
This way, this way, this way.
and
it's just-
that'll play heavily into the Maquis episode that we also want to do really bad, and then we've talked about it a couple times. But yeah, to me this isn't like this just isn't how it would have gone. This just isn't how it would have gone. Like this is just TV showification. I don't know. I mean, it's a weird perspective that I have on this, but it doesn't bother me because I'm just like, this isn't how it actually went. This isn't just how we're seeing it. This isn't how it actually went, even though it is.
I just like,
but whatever.
yeah, the way that it's handled, it's like I get it. They're trying to do a TV show, and they're like, how can we do this on like a small set with like a handful of people? And it's like, sure, but like ultimately, you have said in universe that it's like, oh, we have a courtroom staffed by two people. That's right, Philippa and her
terrified
one
little
intern.
ensign.
Her little intern ensign, and that's where you're going to have this like world-altering fucking case. That's what's good. That's what you're gonna do.
A civil case.
A
Yeah,
civil case.
exactly.
And it's
a
like
military tribunal.
it's absurd. It's
Yeah.
absurd.
I love,
Like,
So
I love how it looks like it's like
consider this
they just found.
consistent.
I love how they also just look. It looks like they just found a room. Like they were just like, all rooms are busy right now, but we have this linen closet you can use. You
Actually,
just
can
go.
I
That's
say
every room though on the Enterprise.
Yeah,
So it's
true,
just
true,
fucking
true,
every
actually
room.
the battle bridge. It's actually the battle bridge. If you look at it,
Oh, is
it's,
it really?
it's a redress
Oh.
of the battle bridge. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my
Amazing.
god, I did not pick that up at all.
It
That's
is a closet.
hilarious.
They never use it.
I'm kind of
Yeah,
painfully
true.
aware right now of how much better of a guest Nicotine is than I am, and I don't understand why Nicotine's episodes don't get as many views as they should. Nicotine is clearly much more literate in Star Trek than I am. I just show up. Like this is very.
Yo, same.
I have nothing
Same.
of value compared to what she's providing. I'm just sitting back and I'm a listener right now, and I just want to let everyone know you should really just listen to Nicotine's episodes, please. I don't know why Nicotine isn't getting as many listens as she should.
It's because
She
nicotine.
deserves more.
True. true.
I have actually now that has not been the case for some time now because Left Track recently got like a really nice algorithm boost just kind of out of nowhere, and all our episodes like really picked up a bunch. And Nicotine, I don't think has the lowest viewed episode anymore. I think that's someone else. I don't remember which one it is.
I can quit refreshing the page. Awesome.
the point is, like and leave a comment, please. God, like and leave a comment. It so noticeably helps
That
so
changes
much.
stuff, yeah, dramatically. It really does.
Oh my! Like even if someone commented on our last episode, like right after it got uploaded, like commenting for engagement, and I'm convinced that comment like jumped our algorithm up like a million fucking percent. It's like holy shit. So God, please listen. I know it's an hour in, but God, listen. Please leave a comment. We love you. And like it. Just say commenting for engagement. Whatever. I don't care. Say whatever you want. Ask us questions. It's fine. Do whatever. Don't use
me
slurs.
names. It only makes me stronger.
Talk about how much you want to kiss us.
Don't
Yeah.
call me names, please. I don't like it.
Yeah.
No
Don't call Kira names.
VTuber
Call
fans
me
giving
names.
me
Don't call the guests anything.
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
call me names. Okay?
Yeah,
All this stuff,
our
all
guests
this stuff
must be treated
pertains
with
to
respect.
yes. All of this stuffs that we're saying pertains to your classic hosts, okay? Not
your
not
humble
the
Left
guests.
Track host. So
Yes.
So Maddox is back once again to the episode where Picard is doing a rebuttal. He calls Maddox to the stand as a hostile witness. Like, oh God, please, once again, go watch the actual episode. This is so great. He asked Maddox to prove to the court that Picard is sentient, and like he asked Maddox of what sentience is. He asked to prove that Picard is a sentient, and Maddox gives the definition of sentience, and once again it's sapience, not sentience, but Maddox gives the definition of sentient. Now I'm getting all fucked up. Of sentience as
Sympians, yes.
Sympience. Consciousness and self-awareness, and they're like, well, doesn't Data have consciousness and self-awareness? And Picard proves it. Like, Data is clearly conscious and self-aware. He asks if Maddox, do you like Commander Data? And then Maddox like once again states his goals for the court, which are to construct hundreds, perhaps thousands of Datas going forward. At that point, doesn't that become a race? And won't we be judged for how we treat that race? Picard immediately reiterates his criteria for
it's such a weird
sentience.
argument, because like it's like I understand and I feel you, Picard, but in actuality, does two make a race, and should we be trembling at the thought of two? I mean, what is this idea of like one makes you special, but more than one makes you not special, and but also a race? I don't understand the argument.
I don't think
That's an excellent point.
I don't think Picard is saying. I don't think Picard's saying that. I think it's more just like Data is not just a construct. He is a being of his own culture, of his own make, and him there being one of him, or him being many of them, is just a device to establish that Data is alive, and Data must be considered with the same respect that we would have for any being, regardless of their construction. But without Picard doesn't offer any rebuttal, and restates Data's Maddox's criteria for sentience, and they keep saying, and I keep getting annoyed in my notes that they're saying sentience and not sapience. But he challenges that Maddox that Data has met at least self-awareness. But what about consciousness? I'm sorry, not consciousness. But what about what was the third one?
Intelligence. It's intelligence. It's memory.
Intelligence?
Yeah. It's overall intelligence. It's capacity for memory, and then consciousness.
Wasn't consciousness the last one?
Consciousness is the last one. Yeah.
Was consciousness? Oh, self-awareness. And then consciousness is the last one, and then Picard challenges. Well, what? So he meets two of your definitions.
Surprised
what if he meets
they
the
didn't do
third?
The mirror experiment. They just put him in front of a mirror. Like, why did they do that?
Who is this?
And then put a smudge on his forehead, put a little dollop of like cream on his forehead, and be like, now what? And see if he like wipes it off, or like, it's like they really missed a step, I think.
So Picard accurately reframes the conversation as not one about property, as discussed with Guinan, but a ruling for how they will treat all artificial life going forward. And very convincing, very cool argument. God, go watch the episode.
Argument. It's funny that he makes the argument about precedence, given that he cites no precedence whatsoever.
He's so angry.
Yeah,
It's funny that he should talk about precedence, given that nobody cites any precedence.
Now I want to wait to talk about this fully.
Get his ass.
But there's also an establishment scene with Pulaski, who also advocates for Data not being sentient.
The best doctor?
Where Pulaski,
excuse me?
Pulaski, excuse me?
No, doctor is the best doctor.
Oh my God.
Where Data,
How can
Pulaski
you do that
says
to Beverly?
Pulaski says specifically that she has to consider Data alive because apparently he was established as being alive by Starfleet. That's an actual line that is said, and Picard doesn't pull that up. But once again, in the actual version of this, I'm guessing that probably did happen.
Yeah, you know why? She only said that so that people would stop calling her fucking a bigot on the ship. But she still goes around and throws refrigerator magnets at Data just to remind him that he's not human.
Can I just say I despise what this episode did to Picard and to Data. Because they used the emotional leverage of Picard's monologuing.
Mm-hmm.
They used it for was it for like a really cool reason to defend like a really interesting character, or was it for Data, the character who is constantly in his quarters watching boiling water, going, I just want to test to see if it boils faster? Like it's
okay. All right, we have got to go on. We're almost done recounting the episode. So the judge starts her ruling, which not a great start, because she keeps calling Data it, and it says, we're ignoring the real question as to whether or not Data has a soul. I found that really annoying until she said that she doesn't know if she herself has a soul, but so clearly she's using that metaphorically, but she's not prepared to answer that, and said that that's a question better left explored by Data himself, which I think very appropriate reasoning there. Data says the court, so it's decided in Data's favor. Data is alive. Data says that Maddox, when you're ready, you can come to me in the future once you've gotten your shit sorted. And Picard is going to reward the JAG officer by taking her out to dinner and plowing her over her battle bridge. There's a celebration of the ruling on the holodeck, and Data comes to invite Riker, who's brooding in the meeting room or ready room, whatever the fuck it is. The necessary scene establishing that Riker is not a bad guy. Riker didn't want to attend the party because he almost succeeded in killing Data. But Data says, "Oh, Riker, if it's not for you, I would have died. So don't worry about it. We're clear." Data holds no ill will, and regardless, they're all friends. We need to show that little scene. But yeah, they have a nice little resolution, and episode ends. Okay, all right, now everyone start complaining.
Nika, go first.
I have a hard time with this episode for so many reasons, but what bothers me most is that I hold the Federation to a pretty high standard, right? This show, TNG specifically, is constantly trying to remind us how utopian it is and how egalitarian it is and how fair and just and good the Federation is. And later episodes try to squash that with Section 39, and then Picard, the show, exists, which is just the worst. And so this series is constantly trying to just remind us that there should be some optimism in the universe. It might be utopian later on. And then we get episodes like this, which are very, very much like the pinnacle of everything that's like wrong with the Federation. Like this is a decision that should never have been made. Do you know why this episode is so stilted? It's because Gene Roddenberry, specifically Gene Roddenberry, did not believe that lawyers would exist in the 24th century. He didn't believe that lawyers would exist.
Based alert, based Gene Roddenberry.
Wait. Well, what? But lawyers do more than just criminal stuff, you guys. Like, lawyers do like deeds and titles and like all kinds of all kinds of stuff. It's not just limited to criminal stuff. There would absolutely be lawyers in the future. There were lawyers thousands of years ago. There are still going to be lawyers in thousands of years. So, Gene Roddenberry specifically.
When you realize that Riker and Picard were effectively just lawyers. They're just less equipped lawyers. They're not like they haven't abolished the need for lawyers. They're like, shit, we need a lawyer here, so you can play a lawyer and you can play a lawyer.
You get to play lawyer today. That's ridiculous. And they're deciding like some huge case for the precedent that doesn't exist. There's so much wrong with this episode. I despise it.
Okay, Zats, now you complain.
I hated this episode. Or excuse me. I didn't. No, I hated this episode. The acting was good. As like a thing, like I hated it in the way that it was enjoyable to watch, but I fucking hated it. It just felt like there was a line that I rolled my eyes so fucking hard to. Oh, when Picard first like goes up to or starts the meeting, it's like, the courtroom is the crucible of truth, burning away all the crucible of justice or whatever, and leaving nothing but the truth. And I'm just like, oh, fucking stroke me, whatever the fuck. God damn it, Picard, like the most lib shit ever. But
TNG is lib shit.
It is,
like,
it is, but it is.
I'm hearing all these criticisms, and I'm wondering what show y'all are watching.
And well, I'm just saying that this is an episode that confirms what I said at the beginning, which is that this is just the West Wing in space, because that's just how this.
No,
is.
the rest of the show isn't like this, you guys. This is not an encapsulation of TNG. This is an anomaly.
This episode is very West Wing, though. That's true.
I got like the vibes from it, right? Like the whole during watching the whole trial, right? I was like, this is just like a Twitch politics panel. This is just you have the one side.
Is that why I hate it so much?
Yeah. You have the one side. You have the one side Picard that's like, fighting and like arguing for the fact that this marginalized member of the crew needs to be advocated for and deserves basic rights, right? And has a professional like understanding, because like he's seen the shit that Data has done, sees the actions that Data has like has taken to like figure out like how to become closer to quote unquote humanity or whatever it is, right? Like walk shoulder to shoulder with Data, right? And then you have, so it's like you have that side of it, and then you have the other half of the panel, which is just some schmuck with an opinion that has absolutely zero fucking right to be talking about anything on there, but just has to be there to be the antagonist. Like, it's just like, oh, we just got to hear him out. They could have led that trial without the fucking without that engineer in the room, and just had Riker sitting there. It could have just been Riker v. Picard, and it would have been way better. But then they had this fucking dipshit there just to be like, like, oh no, I really just want, like, this is about my work. Like, why are you standing in the way of progress? It's the whole thing where it's just like, well, if we don't have data slaves, then people are going to get hurt. Do you want children to die, like in the fucking ethereal fields or whatever the fuck?
Utopia Planitia, they did get data slaves, and a lot of people did get hurt, and that's one of the reasons this episode sucks so hard.
No, I fully object at judging this episode based upon Star Trek Picard, because also New Trek isn't canon.
Jesus Christ.
That firmly. It is not.
If Eric doesn't like it, it's not canon. Remember that.
No, I cannot see how anyone could argue that New Trek is canon. There's no possible way that New Trek is canon.
It's the definition of canon.
No.
I actually have some thoughts. About this episode. I would like to just slingshot past y'all. They're not big. They're just little details I noticed.
Sure.
So, Guinan's scene is actually not in the original script. That's not a thing that they were going to do in this episode. They only did it because Whoopi Goldberg was like coming into the set that week, and they wanted to accommodate Whoopi. They were like, oh, well, Whoopi's going to be here anyway. We should throw her in the episode. So write a scene real quick.
Also, it's kind of funny because
be
it like her being in this episode made a lot of sense, and also you got to remember that like just a few years earlier, like The Color Purple had come out, which was also about slavery. Yeah. So it's like, you know, like it's appropriate, but it's just funny that it was like a coincidence that happened, rather than actually planned.
Another thing is that this is the episode where we learn that Data's storage capacity is 800 quadrillion bits, which is the equivalent of 100,000 terabytes. And I thought that was really interesting, given that like we can just go buy a terabyte right now. We can buy 100,000 of them, and we can make a data.
I store most of this.
We too
most
can
of the
have a
show.
robot that's bad at poker.
I store most of the show on a 5 terabyte drive that I just have plugged into my computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, this this fucking episode like made me mad because it's like it literally just felt like like the only thing that my mind kept coming back to, because once again I'm not a fucking Trekkie, this is the first time I've encountered like this fucking shit. Always remember that, viewer, that I like, for me this was like, I was just like, this is just like a Twitch panel where somebody is like trying to like do like the bare necessity and just being like, yes, this person who is a person deserves to be treated as a person, and this other person, and then like the counter to that is just once again some schmuck who's just like, I don't agree with that, because then what of computer? Then I have to treat my computer. My computer's voiced like has a woman's voice. Does that mean that I have to give it the right to vote? Do women deserve the right to vote? And then all of a sudden it just completely derails. Like
really emotional derailment. Yeah, that's this episode in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
There's
I don't
that part.
I don't agree with any of this. But Brian, do you have any more? Go,
well,
get yours out.
No,
what do you got?
I want to continue on that. Is that, yeah, I mean, it's definitely like more emotional than a court is, but also that's kind of what court can be like sometimes. So
yeah,
especially in media, like that's just like what court is kind of like. So I'm like, you know, I understand the touchstone is like Twitch debate panels, and those are super dog shit. But also, you know, it's kind of courts too. It's just kind of courts are kind of like that.
That's true. The arguments made here are not at all unlike like oratory that lawyers have and often do give. But I want to.
Well, hold on.
Oh, please.
Yeah, it's not real life court, right? This is fictional TV court, right? And in like, if you go watch like a Law and Order or something like that, you'll see like courtroom scenes that are like very similar to this shit. Like if you're looking at a lot of media surrounding legalism like that, it's just like, oh yeah, well this is what happens, and because this is like what the idealist version of like all of that is.
Exactly.
And maybe Twitch panels are trying to like impersonate the West Wing's fucking the West Wing and Law and Order, but like
because this is the TV version of court, just like this is the TV version of Star Trek, because Star Trek is a TV show. This is not. Here's what I mean by canon, right? Is that you cannot apply every single aspect of the production of a TV show that spans over decades as being like one-to-one canon for a fictional universe. Nor should you be slave to the canon of previous installments. If you want to write a new show and you want to, you don't have to pretend that A Measure of Man happened exactly as portrayed 100% in this. You could pretend it was an actual trial, a big trial that happened over the exact same things, and maybe the exact same things were said, and maybe the exact same people said them, but you don't have to pretend that every single thing that happened on the TV show, even though it's part of the fictional universe, actually needed to happen as you are continuing to write things. Like you don't need do you think that every single thing that Kirk did is canon to the Federation?
This is like an argument.
I don't care what Alex Kurtzman
Enterprise
does.
has a whole thing about Klingons. Enterprise has a whole thing about Klingons, about how Klingons used to look like more like humans did, and then they had forehead ridges.
You don't need
and
to do
Enterprise,
that.
They retroactively go back in and retcon the whole thing to say that like there's a disease, and that's why Klingons lost their forehead ridges. Like, Star Trek is committed as a franchise to taking itself at its word with canon every single time, no matter what.
That's not true.
They could have easily been like, well, Klingons, we just didn't have the makeup for them, so that's why they look like that back then. But they didn't. But Enterprise didn't. They specifically brought it back.
But you can do that. You know, Enterprise didn't need to do that, but they did. That's my point about that, and that is a weakness of Enterprise. You don't need to be slaves to the appearance of the fucking Klingons as they appeared in the original series. You can just ignore it.
I'll agree with that.
But that's the thing with everything. Like, do you also think that there's? I mean, do people also consider it 100% canon that there's a million different like quantum universes of the Enterprise that could all just show up at any moment? No, that's one episode. It does not need to be canon. There's a million of them. There's a million lines, a million like little things that get established. You don't have to be slave to whatever bullshit happened in a TV show when you're writing future installments of that same fictional universe, and a slave to canon is only going to be a weakness, because can you justify the kind of federation that we see in future installments, especially in the TNG episodes, with the kind of federation and Starfleet that was in the original series? Like, a lot of people like to be like, oh no, there was this reactionary period where they went back on their own progress in the original series, and that's why everyone's so like sexist and weird during the time. No, that's stupid. You don't have to be canon. That does not have to be what was the Federation at that.
It doesn't have to be. It was a fucking
TV show. These are all TV shows. You don't need to consider this.
That's it. Podcast over. You defeated your own podcast.
I wouldn't have as much a problem with this episode. I really wouldn't have as much a problem with this episode if the foundational premise of the episode, that Data is a person and not property, hadn't already been resolved. Like, prior to the episode, Starfleet accepted him into being a member of Starfleet as a person. They don't give the ship's computer a rank and quarters and command over stuff. Like, they don't give a toaster oven that stuff. They don't give it a uniform.
Yeah, no,
and
you're
let
right.
it walk around. And Pulaski had already signed off on him being a person. So like, this the whole premise is moot. I hate this. I hate it all.
You're right, but then there wouldn't have been a show. Because it's a TV show. It's a TV show. It's a great episode of the damn TV show. And listeners, all these people are what all these people are saying. I don't think is representative at all. Watch this episode. It is fantastic. It is great. All of this legal. You want a legal dissection of the proceeding of this episode? Go watch Legal Eagle. Okay. We don't need to do that.
Legal Eagle rules. Don't get Legal Eagle's name out of your mouth.
and there are other courtroom scenes going forward in other series that we also don't have to consider a canon. Everything is mute. This is entertainment. This is television. Don't be slave to what comes before. If you don't like something, you can just ignore it. You don't have to be bound by the shackles of whatever hack writer wrote on the third script rewrite of some episode premise. Also,
Drumhead was better.
I disagree.
You know, I think
Gene Roddenberry didn't establish this episode. He said that there'd be no lawyers, as in Picard and Riker in this episode acting as lawyers. That wouldn't be what happened. There wouldn't be lawyers. Like, we'd have an entire. Gene Roddenberry imagined some other way of settling disputes. But the writer Melinda Snodgrass convinced him that despite there not being crime, you'd still have to settle civil disputes and negotiate contracts. And Gene Roddenberry's like, okay, fine, whatever. But so it's not even Gene Roddenberry's vision that there would be any kind of like
God, I hate those
adversarial
words.
lawyer process at all.
Vision.
If that's that,
All right, I
even
wanna hear-
that's not canon to the original creator. This is all people. This is all people writing television. It doesn't matter.
I want to hear what Kira has to say.
I really like this episode.
Oh, me too.
Me too.
And I, granted, I haven't seen in a really long time, but maybe I just don't take everything as seriously in this show.
Exactly.
But I really like this episode, and I would even call it my favorite episode.
Wow.
Me too. It's my favorite episode too.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
I love it actually.
No, you don't have to love it. I know it's not perfect, and I know it's very cringe. I just thought it was like, it feels very, very like Picard gets dramatic, and I love Data. And I like conversations about consciousness and stuff, especially as a vegan who sees a lot of people trying to interrogate away like individuals' right to exist.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know, I really like this episode. It just seems like a really nice standalone episode, and I enjoyed it. But that's okay. No one else has to. I'm totally fine with everyone not liking it.
Kira,
I
I'm totally,
love
I'm
it.
totally on
It's a
board
great
with you.
It's a great episode. I'm not on board with any of the things the other people said except for that. That was
like-
lovely,
I
Kira.
agree. I think what Nicotine says, I think Nicotine makes a lot of really great points, and I can't think of any that. I'm sure I disagreed with like one or so or whatever, but like generally speaking, I agree with what she's saying. I just don't really feel any of the passion for any of the points really. Like I'm like, that was a definitely inconsistent. Yeah, that was kind of cringe. But like, that's just something that I've come to accept with TNG, especially when it's season 2. Like season 2, we're already being like confronted with a lot of cringe, like layers of cringe, and like characters that haven't even settled yet. And like then this episode shows up, and it feels really good. In that especially in that kind of climate. So yeah, I don't. Maybe if I analyze it from like a very strict, like if I'm taking this show extremely literally, and I like. I don't know. I don't do that with this show. Like when there's a show that violates, or an episode that violates what the prime directive is supposed to be, I'm like, yeah, that's annoying. That's annoying. And then I move on because I'm like, I'm enjoying the rest of the episode because
you're not,
I like the
you're not a
show.
huge dork.
Yeah, not every single thing that happens in an episode needs to condemn every other episode. They establish things that ignore them all the time in the show, and good on them because you don't want, it's a weakness to do that. It's not a strength.
Yeah,
Well,
I think that like
yeah.
when it comes to like the writing staff over time, like a lot of the attempts at like trying to maintain a continuous like truth throughout the universe inside of the show, rather than just kind of behaving as if a lot of it is metaphor, I think does lead to a lot of this kind of like incoherence that's going on, that we're all like talking about right now. And I do think it's kind of a weakness that a lot of writers really stick to, trying, especially more recent writers, trying to stick to like a like literalist look at the past episodes, right? Rather than this kind of like metaphorical vibe that's been going forward throughout the whole series. Of course. Also, I just wanted to say that like the writing for this episode and the acting for this episode is amazing. Like honestly,
Phenomenal.
So good to watch. Just the
It's
like
very Picard. It's like classic, solid Picard monologue.
yes, absolutely.
Unlike the show Picard.
Yeah. But we got some like really beautiful moments. I think that like the way that they tried to illustrate how people's views were changing by the pronouns that they were using for Data is like
Yeah.
actually really progressive as like writing for the period. This is 89. That's something you just don't see still in a lot of shows today. Like you just don't get that kind of like thoughtfulness in the writing process, and I think that's excellent. You had a lot of good reactions from people that made sense in what was going on in the episode. Like just Geordi, fucking LeVar Burton's performance, like really short in this episode, but like his feelings for Data, just like you could feel it through the screen. Like it's huge.
Their
And
friendship is big in this series.
yeah, absolutely. And I just
And I love that. That is,
Yeah,
it's so
it's
good
great.
that they did that. That they
Now-
wrote it that way.
And if you consider this like exactly how this went down, like in the quote unquote like reality of Star Trek, or if you are saying that like that the things that happen in this episode are representative and must be representative of the future, you also have to accept the episode where, I mean, you also have to accept Code of Honor. You have to accept a million things. You have to accept the episode where Cisco blows up that planet of Maquis. You have to accept that episode of Voyager where 7 of 9, through false accusations of sexual assault, leads an innocent man to his death. You have to accept that other episode of Voyager where they establish that sometimes discrimination is okay because some races deserve it. You gotta accept a lot of awful stuff if you're going to make the argument that every single thing that happens in every episode is representative of the universe itself, which is why I hate Memory Alpha so much. It's because and why Trek fans can often and have historically often been so ignoring, and this is even a weakness of New Trek, is that this incoherent establishment of canon for a show that's constantly changing how its technology works, constantly changing how its legal and political systems work. It doesn't seem like it's very productive to me, and I think it's just going to drive you absolutely insane. Like go on a rabbit hole on anything on Memory Alpha, and you're going to go fucking nuts as you see like fans do a million speculations, especially on Memory Beta, for fuck's sake, where you get books that are trying to justify like individual lines that contradict other lines, and man, who fucking cares? it's not what Star Trek is. You don't have to accept every single episode of the original series. You don't have to accept that stupid thing with the fucking with the young adult style like augments in Enterprise, and how they made the Klingons flat. Like you don't need to worry about it. Now let's so. For those interested in, because we mentioned Picard a few times, and we of course have episode 0 of Left Track that we recorded a great long time ago with me and Elliot, and Brian.
Thank you.
That's they don't have goals. They took off goals on Patreon, but we have an implied goal on Patreon. If we get enough, then I will reassemble my old hard drive and get that recording out and upload it if you want to see us talk about Picard. But the basic thing is that Picard season 1 especially has to deal a lot with like synthetic life, and the ruling here established the measure of a man gone completely. The Federation has a slave race of sapient androids that they abuse, and then those androids go crazy in Skynet, and they blow up Utopia Planitia, and the whole thing is about
it's a really cool thing. They established all this precedent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and it just gets annihilated. It's awful. It's incoherent. It's not Star Trek. They canonize poverty in the Federation. They canonize racial slavery. They canonize discrimination. It's awful. It has to deal a lot with this episode and Data. Picard, spoilers, eventually becomes an android. Then they forget about it because it was stupid. Like it's
yeah.
That's what like. So there's dangers in not respecting your source material, and there's also dangers in respecting your source material. And New Trek manages to do both, especially with this episode, to its own a detriment. And you know what? It doesn't have to be canon. You don't have to canonize New Trek. If you're in the future and there's a new era of Star Trek out there that is blissfully free of fucking Alex Kurtzman specifically, then my God, you do not have to pretend that all of these awful new Trek shows actually happened. You can simply ignore them. You can ignore whatever you want. It's your franchise. You're writing it. Do whatever you want. Who fucking cares? There's a million things like that. But I think I've made my point clear. But we have one last bit to do, which is, of course, the actual rating of the episode. And as we established last time, we don't need future knowledge of Star Trek does not need to go into rating the episode. This episode, just as it is as a piece of television and or a piece of Star Trek, let's do our rating system, and we'll start with Brian. Brian, please rate this episode out of 4 disassembled android limbs sitting on a table.
I'm gonna give this 4 disassembled android limbs sitting on a table. This is a highlight of the series for me.
Mm-hmm,
Are we 4 out of 5 or out of 10?
You'll get it in a second. Zots, please rate this episode out of 29 Shakespeare sonnets. Because it's sonnet the episode the thing that Maddox read out of Data's book was sonnet 29, of course. So please Zots, rate it out of 29 Shakespeare sonnet.
I don't know. What was the number I gave last time when I didn't give a shit? 6? 6.
Yo, rate it. That's a very low rating out of 29, Zods. Give me your rating out of 29 and establish the reasoning why.
You gonna stand by that? Woo.
All right. You say why? Why is it a 6 out of 29, Zots?
Because the whole thing was fucking ridiculous.
Okay,
they shouldn't
moving
have
on.
got it. Okay.
Nicotine, please. I'm sorry, Zots.
We got 15 minutes. I understand. Before fucking Nicotine and Kira both turn into pumpkins. It's fine.
Yes, that's right.
Nicotine, please rate this out of 14 amendments to the Constitution.
So this episode has some really good performances. Like you said, there are some really excellent performances out of the cast. Sometimes performances that you don't really get to see again. Like there's this really good close-up of Riker, and he's like really struggling with what he's just said, and he's got his hands on his face, and it's like very, very dramatic close-up. There's like really good close-ups and drama with Picard. There's a lot of like tension, and it is, for a courtroom episode, it manages to balance tension really, really well, and it does play out like a good episode of television. But it sets some really, really awful precedents as far as like reliance on source material, and the fact that none of it really matters either way. Like it should have been solved before the episode, and after the episode doesn't even matter because they retcon it, I guess, later. And no, the arguments make sense, and everyone's so emotional about it, and this shouldn't be a military court at all. I have so many issues with this episode. I literally can't watch it without like gritting my teeth. I will give this probably 3 amendments to the Constitution out of I'll give it like 5 amendments out of the Constitution. Out of 14.
For measure of a man, 5 out of 14.
I despise this episode.
Yeah, that's right.
This
fuck you, Eric.
This Left Trek episode has gone off the rails.
The character of the show that everyone is constantly like frustrated and upset with. But this episode, we're supposed to believe that everybody loves him and everybody cares about him. And all Picard wants to do is criticize him at all costs. I'm so upset.
Shockingly contentious episode of Left Trek.
Yeah, wow.
Kira, please rate this out of 173, out of Starbase 173 star bases.
I give it the number that reflects that I really enjoyed this episode. It holds a lot of nostalgia for me, especially because it was like one of the first episodes that actually like hit me in like my heart. When I watched it for the very first time as like a brand new Trekkie. Whatever number I need to give to reflect how much I like this episode, while also making sure that Nicotine still likes and respects me.
I would like to change my number. I would like to change my number to Kira's number.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, Kira, what's your what is your number out of a maximum of 173, Kira?
I gave you it.
What?
That's the number.
What was
The
it?
number is that the explanation.
Oh,
Yeah, the explanation.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Well,
Yeah.
but now we've created an infinite loop. Now we have to go to nicotine
no, whoa,
to
we
get
never
Kira's
did.
number, and then we have to go back
It's
to
not
Kira to get
canon.
nicotine number. Oh God, it goes forever.
Make it what you want to be, just not every little thing has
Just
to be
make one
exactly
up.
so. Yeah,
Yeah,
just make it up.
yeah.
There's just a
suck it, nerd.
There's a robot voice that comes over and just says a number. 27.
Chat GPT enabled Roomba.
Oh my god.
Use my nicotine bot that I have on standby. All right, Brian, give me a rating. Give me a rating system.
Oh, give you a rating system. Ah, shit. Let's see.
Unless anyone else has got one.
Oh, I got one.
All right.
I got one. Choose a number out of 250 federation laws on this trial. Whatever the fuck Picard looked up.
Sure. Yeah. All right.
I'm
yeah.
bad at this.
Yeah. No. An appropriate one, if not a weak one. I'm gonna give it the maximum score, 250. This episode's a fucking classic, people. It's a banger. One of, if not the best episodes of Star Trek of all time. The performances are there. The script is there. It's amazing. I so recommend anyone, if you have not rewatched this episode recently, or if you've never seen Star Trek, you go watch this episode. It holds up. It stands out. It's incredible. It is right up there with Inner Light and Darmok and anything else. It's surpassing them in many ways.
I don't like Inner Light. I hate Inner Light. I actually hate it. It's one of my most hated one.
Oh
I
yeah,
hate it.
that's another. Oh yeah.
Is that the flu one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to make certain there'll be a Kira and Jesse guesting episode when we get to that, but that won't be for a while.
I can't hate any Star Trek in front of Jesse. I
think Jesse has that same opinion that I extremely disagree with on Inner Light, but we'll get to that in whatever episode Inner Light is, which 100 episodes from now, 20 episodes from now, I don't remember.
Is it the next episode? I don't know.
No, the next episode is right out of season 1. It's the one where Wesley has a crush on a werewolf.
Excuse me.
It is an extremely TOS episode, as a matter of fact. I can't wait. We're
furry episode. Nicotine, you coming on?
Well, what? Not a furry one.
We're going from the fucking high of highs to the low of lows, like on this next one. It is, oh my god, it is amazing. Can't wait. See, and that'll be next time on Left Track. By the way, leave a comment, ask questions if you want us to read them at the end of the episode. Hey, next episode we'll give a little incentive to comment. Comment, please, I'm begging you.
Also, check out Kirachats on Twitch, twitch.tv, and check out Nicotine on twitch.tv. They're both great.
That's nicotine spelled Nika.
TINE.
I have a pet theory that the word nicotine is getting flagged by YouTube
It actually is. It actually is. Can I say this for a second? So I found out that there is a third-party moderation tool that a lot of tech companies are using lately, and this third-party moderation tool has flagged the first 4 letters of my name as a slur. So what? In the past there have been websites where I can't make a username because it's like your username cannot be this inappropriate. I'm like, nicotine, what?
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. For a long time it was banned on Twitch. we're like getting people banned on Twitch, and I was like, oh my god, what is happening? And I raised the issue. Everybody ignored me because they're like, you must be crazy. This isn't happening. And it turns out, yeah, that actually is. It actually was happening.
Wow. I can't. So I
think it's been fixed, but it for a while it was true that my name was a slur on several websites.
I was thinking that like that because it sounds like nicotine, like the drug, that it was getting flagged and then disincentivized in the algorithm. But fuck, I didn't think about that part. Damn.
Yeah, I didn't think about it, but yeah, now I see it. Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Nicotine rebranding will it be before this episode goes up at 9 a.m. on Sunday?
Measure of a Man Fan 1990.
Well, that's Left Track, folks. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.